Madam Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Elick,
Here.
Ms. Karstafen,
Here.
Mr. Bax,
Here.
Mr. Gebhardt,
Here.
and Mrs. Seguin.
Here.
Okay, everybody is here. So Madam Treasurer, would you please roll out that American flag and everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic
for which
which
it stands,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. And let's go through our introductions. And since we will be back in regular meetings shortly, I will go back in the order that we're used to. To my immediate right is generally Board Member Jim Bax. To his right is our Board Member Lane Sequin. I am Greg Elick. Normally to my left is Board Member and Vice President Annie Karstafen. To her left is our Senior Board Member Mike Gebhardt. He's not on my video. To his left is our Superintendent Ann Slosh. And to her left is our award-winning treasurer, Joy Clickinger. Okay. First off, I believe we do not have any board recognition or presentations. But Madam Treasurer, I believe we do have some visitor comments today. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. We have Meg Spanos. I don't see her right there, but there she is.
Here she is.
She'll need to unmute herself. There.
Okay, Mrs. Spanos, welcome to our virtual board meeting. Please state your name and address for the record, and then you can go right into your discussion.
My name is Meg Spanos, and actually I'm with my daughter, Anna Spanos, who's very bashful, so she's kind of hiding, but this all started from her. And our address is 231 Eastern Heights Boulevard, Elyria, Ohio.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Proceed, please.
It was, my daughter attends Eastern Heights Middle School, and last year there was quite a few incidences where there was lockdowns and such from guns being found in school or phone calls being called. One of the children had brought Nerf guns in, and of course they got in trouble for having the Nerf guns. But after school, I had picked her up and she was telling me her concerns. And she said, Mom, she said, if we're not allowed to have guns in school, how come Petey the Pioneer has a gun? I was like, what? And so then she went on and was explaining how, well, if Petey the Pioneer is all over our books, our T-shirts, backpacks, folders, planners, on the wall, how come he has a gun and yet you're not allowed to have a gun in school? Wouldn't that be promoting guns in school? And I was like, wow, that's pretty good, you know, 7th grade. And I said, well, what would you do to fix that? And she said, well, you would have to ask the boss of the schools. I said, the superintendent? She goes, yeah. I said, well, don't you think you need to address it? She goes, but I can't talk in public. I said, well, we can figure out a way to do this. So then I had reached out and said, hey, how does my daughter present her pros and cons of changing the Pioneer, PD the Pioneer? And that's when it was responded back about doing the Zoom. And Anna was like, okay. Well, now She is not okay. She's scared about this. But so last night we sat down and I had her give me ideas and reasonings. And we just printed off the Pioneer just so you could see this is where he has a musket. But her thoughts were, why should PD the Pioneer design be changed, removing the musket from his appearance? And she says that the con of it would be the appearance resembles authentic Pioneers, and new materials, folders, outfits, etc. would have to change, so the cost to change that design would have to be done. But the pro of it would be no longer advertising guns in school or at events, no longer giving wrong ideas or impressions to the younger students. And students can use PD as a costume without the issues of carrying a gun. I said, well, what would he do then? And she said, if I could change the design, I would have PD use a walking stick due to the Pioneers traveling and crossing the U.S. territory. So that was her ideas and thoughts, and I think that it should be something that should be addressed. Not that, you know, there's anything wrong with it per se, but it really should be addressed, especially to the kids and stuff. And we know that PD doesn't walk around the sporting events with a gun in his hand. But at the same time, it gives the impression to younger students and even all students in Elyria school systems that because PD, our mascot, does it, why can't I?
Okay. All right. Well, any other items that, Mrs. Spanos, that you would like to discuss with the board this evening?
No, just that my daughter's very excited to get back to school. We're doing the 2 days in and the rest time out. But
what grade was your daughter in? I'm sorry.
She's going into 8th grade. She's at Eastern Heights.
Going into 8th grade. Okay, well, please share with her. We appreciate you and her in the background taking the opportunity to address the board on this matter. It's something that we will obviously look into, and it's citizens like you and her addressing the board that helps us understand the feeling out in the community, and we'll definitely take this under consideration.
Well, we thank you very much for your time and in allowing us to present this to the board.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, so we're very fortunate to have Mrs. Spanos discuss the PD Pioneer logo. Just for the record, Madam Superintendent, is there any events that we have in the district where our Pioneer is actually carrying a gun?
Not to my knowledge, Mr. Alec. In my 28 plus years here, I've not ever seen PD carry the musket. You know, I've not ever seen it.
Okay. Well, for the board, please give this some consideration. And if any board member feels adamant about this, at our next board meeting, we can move forward with potential changes. Okay, moving on along on the agenda to board member discussion items. First item that I have on my list is, with all the work of the administration going on to get the children back to school, I think it's obviously time that the board start looking at getting our board meetings back to the admin building. So with that said, I'd like to ask our treasurer to begin the plan to have our board meetings back at the administration building. If you could, Madam Treasurer, look into how we can have our meetings in compliance with the Ohio Department of Health and CDC, policies and in procedures during the pandemic. And maybe if we shoot for September, that way, maybe in the next week or two, you can put together a memo of how we'll have our meetings, send it to each board member, make sure everybody is comfortable with that before our next meeting, which is around the middle of August, and then we can officially announce at our next meeting that come to the first week of September meeting, that we will be back in actual session. Is any responses from my fellow board members on that?
I'm agreeable with that, as long as we wear masks.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. Moving along on the agenda, I do have a question for our superintendent. I was out of town last week, and I was a little surprised when I got back to see a few of my former board colleagues at UH inquire about a rally that we had at McKinley School. And I did not think that that was a rally that we promoted. So, Madam Superintendent, can you just give us a little background on how this rally all started at our school?
Sure, President Alec. The day before the rally, and I have to say, I believe the rally was Wednesday. Or wait, no, today's Wednesday, Monday. I might have my days mixed up. No, wait, it was last week. I'm sorry. I'm moving in. It was while you were gone. These days are running together. I'm sorry. We're working a lot.
Yeah, it was last week. I thought it was in the paper
Thank you.
Wednesday, so maybe it was Tuesday, but either way.
Either way. So I received a call from one of the city employees and asked if the city could use McKinley School. They needed electrical hookup, and they wanted to have a rally against basically to go against the change in the birthing unit being moved out of the UH hospital. I, at that time, indicated to this person that the Elyria City Schools were partners to both the city and UH. And we typically do not get involved in these types of matters, at hand. And we are neutral in those types of things. They're both our partners. So we do not usually get involved in those matters. And we would prefer they did not use McKinley School for this type of rally. And this person was fine, said, thank you. We just thought we'd ask. They were looking for something close in proximity. And then the next day, I found out the rally was being held at McKinley, which then you called me and found out the same thing. So I was under the impression that it was not going to happen because I had given the directive to the city that we did not want the rally held there. We did not get involved in that type of activism, and with our partners, and it still did take place.
Okay.
Against my wishes.
Did they use our electricity?
They did not. They brought a generator.
And you were approached by a city official?
Yes.
And even with your request that it not occur on McKinley property, they went ahead and did it?
Correct.
Okay, well, that's very concerning.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
So just for the record, somebody from the city specifically asked if they could use our property for a rally, and we specifically said no, but they went ahead anyways. Is that pretty much summarize it?
That is correct. And I did not get a follow-up call that they were doing it anyway. I found out they used it when they were using it, basically.
Okay.
So they did not call back and, ask further questions. It was just a base, that initial call.
Well, that is a little alarming that something
Yes, it
like
is.
this would happen, especially with the city. And I do want to say that this board has gone out of its way to be neutral on different political items within the community. And I would like to ask our attorney, I see that we have our attorney, Howard Lane, on the meeting. Howard, would you be able to maybe, I don't know, within a week or so, would you be able to maybe send the board your thoughts on this? And it's concerning that another organization would ask for permission to utilize, our property and then go ahead after permission was denied and do this anyway. So could you maybe, do a follow-up to the board about, kind of what our rights are and with these types of occurrences?
Absolutely. I could certainly have something, within the next week to the board.
Okay.
And, generally I could just tell you, this is school property. And the board is by statute charged with controlling the school property. Public property is a little different than private property. There are different rights and obligations involved with public property vis-a-vis the McKinley School as opposed to your individual residences. There are also issues of freedom of speech and freedom of assembly that you have to take into consideration. Generally, I could tell you that school property is not considered a public forum for purposes of speech or assembly unless the school by its practice or policy makes it such, which brings up an interesting question with regard to the statutes that allow us to essentially rent out school property. We have a statute in some policies that talk about making school buildings and facilities available upon application and payment of a fee. That's pursuant to a specific statute that says that we have to do that. But that statute also says that you're allowed to put in essentially restrictions, reasonable restrictions on the use of school property. In just looking at this, the statute and the policies that we have in place, I saw some very interesting inconsistencies. It appears to me that the statute was updated back in 2014, and those updates didn't really translate all the way to our policies, even though our policies were updated, I think, through the OSBA in 2018. So there may be some modifications to those policies that I might want to recommend to you. But yeah, I can have something to you within a week on that.
Okay, that would be wonderful. And I think as a school district, I think it's important, and as far as the leadership goes, and I believe this board is 100% with doing the right thing. And I know our superintendent continues to do the right thing. So obviously, if the shoe was on the other foot and we asked for use of property and we're denied, let's make sure we don't do something like this. So, and that would be great if we can go through and maybe update our policies. And your recommendations and interpretation is greatly appreciated, Attorney Howard Lane. Okay, moving along on the agenda. Any other, one other thing too. I'd like to really thank the leadership at our school. It's not been an easy time with COVID, and I know there's a lot of hours being put in with the back to school plan. And I've heard a lot of parents that are very happy with the different recommendations there. And I think it's very important to get a balance between having your children back in school and feeling safe. And there really is a need for children to be in school from everything that I've read. And hopefully, Madam Superintendent, you'll discuss that a little bit more in your portion of the agenda. Is that correct?
Sure.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Any other board member discussion items, fellow board members?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of follow up with you on your last comment, Greg. That was quite an effort. I mean, certainly the administrative staff, as well as the teachers and the classified staff were all involved, plus parents involved in this. So it's quite an effort, and you got a plan. But I would say probably it sounds like it's one of these things where we stand by and try to stay flexible. Because
Correct.
I wouldn't be completely surprised if there's going to be changes between now and September 8th.
The health department, Dave Cavell says the word toggle is the new word for Scrabble. Toggle.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, certainly the priority is the safety of the staff as well as the students. And so yeah, and I'm sure your priorities are certainly in that direction.
Absolutely.
Secondly, shift gears a little bit. Very pleased that the district and the EEA were able to come together and give us an agreement, a 3-year agreement on a labor contract. So that, again, is a lot of work. Certainly a lot of people involved in that as well. But I commend you on certainly, and just just your perseverance here in the last few months. I mean, it's been, I think it's been difficult on a lot of people. And I think it's probably fallen heavily on you.
Well, I don't want to take all that myself, because this team is unbelievable, and you're only as good as who's around you. So it's everyone working together.
Absolutely.
So now that we have labor peace for 3 years, maybe that back of that office will get cleaned up a little there, Madam Superintendent.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding. Mr. Gebhardt, you had something to say?
No, she even had to cancel a vacation.
No.
Okay, and also, just wanted to state, I'm going to give a full report later on, but the OSBA Urban Advisory Summer Conference was held on the 21st of July, and I attended, but also it was wonderful having our superintendent there. It was a virtual meeting, and the superintendent was able to give some input that maybe I didn't necessarily have, but it was a great representation having her there with me. So it was wonderful.
It was fun to do it together, Anna.
Yes, it was fun. Thank you so much.
outstanding.
Yes. Mhm.
Did you make it there on time?
Well, yeah, it was virtual.
All right. Any other board member discussion items? Okay. With none, we'll move along on the agenda to the minutes. The minutes for the prior meeting, my agenda's out of order here, have been posted. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Gebhardt and a second by Board Member Karstoffany. Any questions or comments? With none, Madam Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Gebhardt,
Aye.
Ms. Karstafen,
Aye.
Mr. Bax,
Yes.
Mrs. Segwin,
Aye.
and Mr. Elick.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, treasurer action items. Madam Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only thing I have tonight is approval of the startup cash for fiscal year 2021.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the treasurer action items for the startup cash?
So moved.
A motion by Board Member Karstoffen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Sequin. Any questions or comments? With none, Madam Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Karstafen,
Aye.
Mrs. Segwin,
Aye.
Mr. Bax,
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt,
Aye.
and Mr. Elick.
Aye, motion carries. Any other reports this evening, Madam Treasurer?
No, the only thing that I do want to mention is just to make sure that everybody saw that the OSBA Capital Conference has been turned into a virtual conference. Normally, at this meeting, we would be approving everyone's attendance or finding out who wants to go. But at this point, we won't have that race for hotel rooms, and we'll see how the virtual piece actually turns out.
Okay, and when do you think they'll have that finalized by and for us to figure out if we can make it to the virtual conference?
I'm not really sure. I know that they are working on it now. It's possible that it is final now. I haven't checked on it in probably a week, so.
Okay. Well, if you can, when you find it out, either at the next meeting or in an email, give the entire board an update. That would be wonderful.
Will do.
Okay. Moving along on the agenda, I don't believe we have anything on the OFCC today, so we'll move right into the superintendent action items. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Elick. First of all, to approve the contract with Educational Alternatives for the 2021 school year. To approve the contract with the ESC of Northeast Ohio for the Achievement Centers for the 2021 school year. To approve the interagency agreement for the 2021 school year. To authorize the student transportation contract between the Elyria City School District Board of Education and EA, Education Alternatives, for the 2021 school year. To approve the contract for the Cleveland Hearing and Speech for the 2021 school year. To approve the content of the Elyria City Schools and the First Student Bus Handbook for the 2021 school year. To approve the purchase of 300 mobile internet hotspots from T-Mobile. I do want to say one little thing. We have gotten some grant money to help us pay for some of that, but so that is, or to buy more, whichever we choose, for our virtual academy for this year. And that concludes my action items.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the superintendent action items?
Move to
So-
approve.
I have a
Support.
motion by Board Member Bax. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Karstoffen. Questions or comments? I'll start off. I do have a question. On these hotspots, now, are these for the old facilities?
So no, these are for our families' homes. So we've struck a deal with T-Mobile, and what it is a lot of our families that don't have the Wi-Fi in their home are unable to do the virtual learning. So we were able to negotiate a deal with T-Mobile to get a very good rate. I believe I think it's $125 for the year for them to be able to have Wi-Fi in their home so that their students are able to do the work at home that is virtual.
So if a student is at home and their parents decide to have virtual education this first semester, all they need is this one hotspot item, and this will give them internet access to be able to attend school virtually. Is that correct?
Correct. We are, obviously, we have 3,800 families in the district, roughly. And our first 300 we're buying, which we think will get us through those families that have signed up. Understand, we have roughly between 1,500 and 1,600 students that have signed up, but that's not, less families. And we're going to buy more. but some of these families already have Wi-Fi. So we're going to use the free and reduced lunch first so that our neediest families that don't have Wi-Fi get them first and then move through that. I met with Natalie Matthews and Brian Kokai with our 4 foundations last week. And so far, they have given us $51,000, and 2 more have responded that they're digging in the pockets and
Oh,
going to see if
wonderful.
they can get us any more money, which is wonderful. So,
Oh, that's great. So
Well, this
the
was partially-
intention here is to give these to the households at no charge, correct?
correct.
Okay. That's
And there was a-
outstanding.
Part of that is also, would that also fall under CARES Act funding as well?
It could, yeah. We used some of the CARES Act funding to help us get the Chromebooks. And
Okay.
now we have enough, each student will be getting a Chromebook. Both the hybrid model and the virtual model. So
Yeah.
all of our students will get a Chromebook for learning.
So the students on the hybrid model, would they also need that hotspot on the 2 days that they're not at the building?
They could need it, not to the extent that the virtual would. So we're going to make sure our virtual learners are taken care of first.
Okay.
Because the 2 days they're in, a lot of their work will be assigned on those 2 days and could already be given to them, but yet they'll have check-ins with their teachers on the days they're at home, or at the end of the day, on the days they're at home from their teachers. So they will need some Wi-Fi, but not to the extent of the virtual learners. So we're going to kind of, we want to make sure the virtual learners have it first and our neediest learners first.
Okay.
So
So you're
on this, it is, I think it's outstanding that we're able to help out the needy families. Maybe you could put something together on how the administration plans to monitor this. Obviously,
Mhm.
if somebody has means, we don't want to be paying to give them a hotspot if we don't have to. So we
Correct.
can obviously watch our own budget. So
Sure. And understand any of our Chromebooks that go home still have our filters and everything on them. So they're still managed by the Elyria City School District.
Yep.
So, and I think hopefully by the end of our putting out, because we did just hear that the state is also going to do some matching with hotspots, and Philanthropy Ohio just sent me, and I know Natalie got it too, an email about matching some of the hotspots. So hopefully we won't have a problem at all, that all students that need them will get them.
that's
You know,
outstanding.
I have a
I don't-
question. I have a question.
Right.
You know how in with like my hotspot for work, I can connect with about 6 of the laptops from my job. So then if there are students that you have maybe 3 to 4 students in one household, would they all be using the same hotspots in the
Correct.
iPads or tablets would then lock to those only?
So Mr. Kokai, yes, Mr. Kokai did a great job. They tested 4 or 5 different hotspots to make sure that they could handle multiple users at once.
Okay.
So his tech department tested, and we went with one that could justify the cost and number of users.
Do you happen to know the effective range of one of those things, Ann? Just out of curiosity.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Kokai on that one.
Is he on this?
They're not very big antennas, so they would be kind of local to probably a room is where you'd have your best results. But certainly they could probably be used in a larger open space. With antennas, you're talking line of sight usually. They're small units, they're portable, they're mobile. And so the antennas really aren't that big or powerful. But we did take them, connected multiple devices, took a van around the city, and took about 20 different data points, testing the throughput and the bandwidth to make sure that our software could run them. They could have meetings at a decent and usable data rate. So but again, these aren't giant devices, that'll cover an entire house. There are some limitations based on their size that we had to trade off to balance that with affordability.
Cool.
And do
Okay.
they have
And we have
limited,
talked
do they have limited use for, as far as hours for the students?
I believe the ones that we are purchasing, we're purchasing two different items. We've got like a package. So Ann already talked about the Chromebooks. We're talking about the hotspots. There's also a software piece that goes on top of this called Go Guardian. And Go Guardian manages and filters. I'm not exactly sure if we're limiting the hours in which they can be used, but I could check into that.
Okay.
We've also talked about using our buses in areas like apartment complexes if we are lacking Wi-Fi spots, and maybe putting a really powerful one in parking, during certain hours that students could connect from their apartments. Just an idea that was thrown out there.
Okay. Great. Also, too, I think it's really helpful for myself, and I'm sure for the other board members, that the action items now, the contracts include the information from last year. So that's really beneficial. Thanks for including
Kudos
all
to
that.
Joy on that.
Yes,
Way to go,
Yes, thank
Joy.
you,
that was
Joy.
helpful.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? With none, Madam Treasurer, would you please call the roll on the superintendent action items?
Mr. Bax,
Yes.
Ms. Karstafen,
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt,
Aye.
Mrs. Segwin,
Aye.
and Mr. Elick.
Aye. Motion carries. Madam Superintendent, do you have personnel action items for us this
Yes,
evening?
we have a few. First of all, to approve the resignation of the following certified staff. These are relocations of two teachers. Also, to approve the retirement. Many of you may know her as Deneen Riles, Deneen France. She has been a kindergarten teacher in the district for 27 years.
Wow.
So we wish her well. To approve the appointment of the following certified staff. Believe it or not, we had a really hard time finding a physical education teacher. To approve the retirement of the following classified staff. Linda Morrison, 30 years as a server and breakfast monitor at McKinley. Wonderful. To approve the resignation of the following classified administrative staff. Eric Baker from the tech department. To approve the resignation of the following classified staff member. To approve the appointment of the following classified staff, so moving around there. To approve the one-year limited contract of the following classified staff, and to approve the unpaid leave of absence of the following classified staff member. And that concludes my personnel action items.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's action items?
So moved.
I have a motion by Board Member Bax. Do I have a second?
No, that was,
Second by Board Member Gebhardt. Any questions or comments? With none, Madam Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bax,
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt,
aye.
Ms. Karstafen,
Aye.
Mrs. Segwin,
Aye.
and Mr. Elick.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, moving along on the agenda. Looks like we got some big news that Mr. Bax already spoke about. Madam Superintendent?
Yes. So we have to approve the adoption of the negotiated agreement between the Elyria Education Association and the Elyria Board of Education. That will be effective August 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2023. I would like to say thank you to both teams. I think they both did a great job, and we're very excited that this is done. So thank you.
Great.
Very
Okay.
good. Very good.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Board Member Karstoffen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
We all
Second by Board Member Bax. And Madam Superintendent, I do have a question. I was confronted when I got back from vacation about coaches' supplemental contracts and how ours may differ from other schools within our county. Could you just touch on that quickly, how our supplemental contracts work?
Are you talking about the MOU, Mr. Ellick?
Yes.
Okay, so there were two things that were voted on the night of the, or the day of the voting. What's happening right now, as you know, in the spring, when COVID came on us, we had the supplemental contracts and we were in the middle of everything, and everyone was in the middle of coaching. This year, because extracurriculars, both academic and non-academic, are so unknown, whether with COVID they're going to happen or not going to happen, most of your districts, if not all of your districts, are coming up with agreements with their associations as to how that will happen, as to how long these activities happen. So for instance, if something doesn't even get started, it may not, that supplemental contract may not even happen. If they get through the beginning training and get to the first, let's say, actual game, they would get so much of the, a percentage of the pay. If they get through half the season, they would get a percentage of the pay. And I'm kind of ad-libbing, but I think what's happening, because obviously we have to be fiscally responsible, and as you know, we most people, you get paid for what you do. I
Sure.
mean, that's a common way we work, we get paid. We've come up with agreements, and we're in the middle of working with the EEA on that agreement on how that will work.
Okay.
So that is how it works now. And again, we're in the middle of that discussion. And I can't go into detail, but that is,
Sure.
that is what's going on, Mr. Alec.
Okay, so that area, the MOU is still open and a little bit
It
more
is.
work to be done there?
Yes.
Okay,
And
all right. Any other questions or comments?
yeah, what does MOU stand for?
Memorandum of Understanding.
Understanding.
It's kind of like an add-on to a contract if it's a
No, I
change in
understand
the
now.
normal
I was thinking
contract
it
language.
was something school specific, but okay, it was
It's
just
okay,
general.
education is a bunch of acronyms.
Okay.
So please keep us posted on that. With no other questions or comments, Madam Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Karstafen,
Aye.
Mr. Bax,
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt,
Aye.
Mrs. Segwin,
Aye.
and Mr. Elick.
Aye, motion carries. Madam Superintendent, you have a superintendent report for us this evening.
I do. I just, first of all, I just wanted to touch base a little bit on reminding parents a few things about our plan. And if I could ask Mrs. Clickinger if she could just let me share one graphic here. I know she has to allow me to share. She has to be a good sharer here, like most.
There you go.
All right. Do I have to pull it over to a different screen maybe?
You hit share,
Okay, hold on.
and then it asks you which screen you want to share. You don't have to move the screen. You just have to tell it
Okay,
which one.
there I go.
And then
I
hit
want
okay at the
that
bottom.
one. And
Did
then
you
I
get-
share. How's
There
that?
you go.
There it is.
All right,
Oh,
so
look at this. Fancy, fancy.
look at this. This is part of our plan that came out, and this is probably the in-person attendance and hybrid model. As I mentioned earlier, we have two choices right now for our families. They can stay at home. We completely understand if each family makes that decision for their children to stay home, and we'll do everything we can to support that, to work with them, the teachers. We sent out a sample schedule. If you go to our website, there's what's called a Pioneer Path to Learning at Home that has the sample schedule. It's been on Facebook, it's been on our website, it's been on Twitter. And that gave the parents a little bit of a sample on what a schedule would look like. They're actually going to be interacting with their teachers for a good chunk of the day. And then you have your hybrid, where there's cohort A, which will go Monday, Tuesday, and cohort B, which will go our Thursday, Friday. we've had a lot of questions as to how we decide when we move off of whether we're going back normal, whether we're hybrid, whether we're at home and virtually all together. So I wanted to bring up this graphic because it was all part of our packet, where it shows you in alignment with the COVID-19 risk levels that the state put out. If you see right now, we are still at the orange level as a state in Ohio, and that still says we are hybrid as a district. And we have the two options. We are staying with hybrid right now. I know you're seeing a lot of districts around us, especially to the east of us, because the recommendation from the Cuyahoga County Health Department, we have been in constant contact with the Lorain County Health Department. And as of even yesterday, Dave Cavell says status quo. We have, I think, 5 or 6 districts around us that are doing 5 days a week with the virtual academy. We did choose the hybrid. We have 2 districts in Lorain County doing online only. But right now we are going to stick with the virtual and the hybrid. But one thing we do want parents to remember, at any time, this could change. And you really need to be prepared to have a plan in place for a change. And that's one thing Dave Cavell has said over and over to us. If they see a spike or if something happens, that there's a new outbreak or what have you, we always have to be prepared. He doesn't think that will happen. But again, we listen to him. He's the expert. We feel comfortable. Our class sizes will be small. We feel very good about how we're setting up the classrooms. We have plenty of PPE. We're going to have the guidelines from the health department in place. We have Dave Cavell coming to talk to the administrators. We're going to have the nurses, the secretaries, and the staff will all be talked to by someone from the health department. So we have a lot of things lined up. We feel we're doing everything that we can to make it a good beginning. Right now, we have still about 75 to 80% of the parents that want their students to come in the hybrid model. So we feel like that's a pretty good sized chunk of parents that really do want their students to be in school. So again, as of right now, we are going to stick with our hybrid model, and we feel that the plan is in place, and we feel it's very well thought through. Again, can't say enough about the team that's worked this through, which is teachers, the classified staff, the custodians that have worked to get it ready, and the parents and everyone helping us do this. So I just wanted to remind parents on how we got to this place, and let them know we are thinking of all of these things. I know it's scary to some. There is fear out there. We're not trying to downplay that in any way, shape, or form. We just are doing what we think is best at this time with the information that we've gotten. And I do meet again every Friday with the health department and the other superintendents. So any
Great.
questions you might have, Board of Education?
I do have a question. I've been approached by a couple of mothers that are very concerned with, obviously with COVID. And their question was, why have the children in school at all during the pandemic? And I did not have the information with me. I know there's numerous studies and data supporting how crucial it is for the growth of a child to be with his peers in school. Madam Superintendent, could you just address that and share a little, or somebody within your group share that with us?
Sure. Probably as much of the safety health-wise, as far as physical health, you hear the mental health side of how much the students are lacking in the mental health and being with their peers, and the depression and things that are going on with students that aren't with their peers. And that, again, that's not to downplay the possibility of someone getting sick or anything like that. But I think he actually he's a former pioneer, the pediatrician they had on at the ODH with Governor DeWine. He said he's very concerned that not only for mental health purposes, but also for, there's something to be said for kids being around other kids and building up immunities. I think, they do talk about that in some of the research. There's going to be research on both sides. I'm not a scientist, obviously, or a doctor, but what I hear Mr. Cavell tell us all the time is, for every article you have pro, you'll have a con. And that's a battle. Either side will never win, but you just keep trying to do what you think is best at the time. And I think the one thing we were going to try a 4-day, trying to get the kids in even more, but just the fact of trying to squeeze kids into a small space, we felt so confident with the less kids in a larger space and getting more one-on-one attention to make up for some of that learning loss from the spring even. We feel good about the plan. Again, there obviously, there are people that don't agree with it. But to your point, Mr. Ellick, there is a lot of research out there that does say that getting the kids back to school is the right thing to do.
So have there been, I'm sure there have been, any plans or thoughts on if a student comes down with COVID, what happens?
Sure. So we will have absolute process and protocol steps in place. The Lorain County Department of Health will have a template for every instance, a letter that we have to follow. So we have protocol we have to follow, and they take it over after a certain step. So everything will be exactly drawn out that we have to follow to the T. So, and the staff will be trained on that. In fact, we have a couple PD days before the kids even come, and we're doing that staggered start. That's one of the reasons we're doing the staggered start that first week, is so that we have that time to make sure, number one, the kids come in, they get to see their classroom, they get to meet their teachers, they get their equipment, and the teachers are getting, trained on the protocols and everything, and everyone's ready for that start.
Okay. Will there be any changes in the grading structure? Any courses changing the pass-fail versus the conventional grading?
We will be going back to conventional grading. The way it was thrown on to us in the spring, it was, everyone just had to split decisions. It will count like a regular year. More accountability. And, these are for credits, back to the way it is, the way it should be. And we want it more like a regular setting, how it should be. So grading should be very much like it was in the past.
Okay.
So, and,
Obviously, there could be a little bit of a change just because of how it's set up.
on virtual days, I guess if you're doing the hybrid or either one, then is there a requirement to be there at a certain time? Because before there wasn't really. Is there attendance?
If you're on a virtual academy, full virtual, you have a schedule.
Okay.
Okay. If you're on the hybrid, there are certain times that there are check-ins with the teacher when you're not in the hybrid. But a lot of your work will be sent home because obviously these teachers are teaching the other days.
Oh, true.
But in the middle of the week on Wednesdays, there will be some check-ins.
Okay. Okay.
Very good.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, any other items on your superintendent report this evening, Madam Superintendent?
Just one quick one. We just got notification that Jeremy Sekar, one of our physics teachers for the state of Ohio, was awarded the Presidential Award of Excellence in Math and Science nationally
Wow.
for the state of Ohio. So big award. I know Amy just put out a press release and good things coming, but phenomenal teacher, well-deserved. He does national modeling seminars, and we're very proud of Jeremy, and not surprised. We have a lot of wonderful teachers, so
That's
but
outstanding.
he's awesome. I'm sure a lot of your kids have.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Very good.
All
That
right.
is all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Moving along on the agenda to the Board of Education.
Anne, could you please?
I'm pressing it. Yep,
There you
got
go.
it.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to ask the board to approve the first reading of the following new board policy, and that is going to be for the use of face coverings. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Board Member Bax. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Gebhardt. Questions or comments? With none? I'm sorry?
I just had a little bit of a question in reading it. In certain areas, am I understanding where it's possibly saying that we cannot ask them to always wear a face covering? Am I reading that correctly? Or what? It was
So this is
going back and forth, I thought.
So this is basically what the OSBA does, is makes these policies somewhat generic so that we can put in procedures and in place. So there, you'll see another piece to this that we're working on that will go along with the policy. So, because those things change more than not, and we don't want to constantly change our policy. So they leave them somewhat, you're picking up on it right away, Annie. They leave them somewhat loosey-goosey, I guess is not the right word, but yes, very generic. Yes,
Yeah.
so what we are doing, Mr. Kokai is working on our regulations and our procedures that will go along with what we are using. Like right now, K-12 has to wear them in the building. There is no choice. All staff members have to wear them. So we are going to have those regulations and procedures in place before school starts.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mrs. Seguin?
Aye.
And Ms. Relic?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, before I get into the last item, are there any other items that my fellow board members would like to discuss?
Yeah, I was just something. Ely is gone, the old Ely, and the new Ely is really starting to stand out. It looks real good.
Oh, it sure does. It really pops on that corner now with that building gone, doesn't it?
And with that, the big Ely on the sign in the school.
Yeah,
It looks
that's nice looking. I noticed.
Does look very nice.
Don't forget
Okay.
tomorrow at 4:45 at Hamilton.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. With no other items, I'd like to request an executive session for the purpose of considering appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official with no action to follow as authorized under Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Board Member Karstoffen. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second by Board Member Sequin. Madam Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mrs. Seguin?
Aye.
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
and Mr. Elick.
Aye, motion carries. And Madam Treasurer, would you virtually take us into that secret room where we do our executive sessions?
All righty, hang on just a second. Give me a few minutes.
And hopefully Mr. Gebhardt will quit yawning and falling asleep.
Ellie's gone.
What do you mean I'm gone?
Oh, there you are. Okay.
That was Annie.
Annie's gone.
Annie.
She's going into her executive session
She's already in there.
virtual room. Oh,
And are any of the administrators needed in there? Do we need Jamie?
Jamie needs to come in, yeah,
Okay.
for the one thing, yeah.
Mr. Gebhardt, just for the record, does your PD Pioneer logo have a gun?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I was trying to squint and see that if it did or not.
You know, this has come up several times before, and every time they've not done anything with it.
Does your
But-
PD Pioneer behind?
I'd like to call the roll to reconvene, please.
Okay.
Mr.
All the
Bax?
way.
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Ms. Karstafen?
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Can't hear you.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Hi.
And Mr. Elick?
Aye. Motion carries to reconvene.
aye.
Now, how about it? Oh, yeah. Did you call Board Member
You didn't
Siegel?
call me, so hi.
Okay, I thought I did. So you must not have heard
Can't
me.
hear you.
That was Board Member Gebhardt burping that you heard. So, all right. So how about now if we go to a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
And Karstafen with the second. Madam Treasurer, back to you. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Gebhardt?
Hi.
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mrs. Segwin?
Hi.
And Mr. Elick?
Aye. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned, and we'll see everybody for one more virtual meeting in a couple weeks. All right.
Or tomorrow.
See you all
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Okay. We'll see you. Have a great night.
All right.